archipelago, sharp as a stencil. Like volcanoes, magma in the temple. Hype crew yelling, the sound monumental.
What does it look like when you come across someone that has been able to get the help from your organization?
I'm very emotional about it because there's so much gratitude and healing. And I like the story that you shared previously about conversion, right? Because in a sense, it's almost as if people go through this conversion because they're able to heal. They're first able to acknowledge that something is happening to them. And I think that's another just really unfortunate thing, like without having enough data on our people, because when there's no data, people don't think that anything's wrong. And then it's also because government systems don't recognize us, so they just go on living and doing the same things that they've always been doing. But then when they come to realize that there's a whole different life for them on the other side, it's almost as if they're more connected to a higher power within themselves. And it's very powerful. It's very beautiful. It's very soft and loving. And there's just so much gratitude and beauty to it, you know? And I feel like the inclusion and a lot of the things that people are seeking for in their lives, like through their healing journey, they're able to find that because they have access to the services that are allowing them to receive the support and then not like the education like that they need for things like this. So I think that's like another challenge and barrier that I've been facing along the way is trying to help others see the same value in this mission that I see. Because like what you said, Leaso, like I love the analogy with the farmer because that's how I feel. I feel like a lot of the things that I share when it comes to knowledge, it's general knowledge. And so it's kind of funny to me when people try to discredit like what I'm sharing because it's general knowledge. You can access it on the internet. You can research it yourself. You can look in textbooks. Like these are not just things that I'm just pulling out of thin air. It's like real evidential things that I'm sharing. So when it comes to seeing like the value in all of this, it is a little bit difficult and a little bit challenging. And the reason why value matters is because even though I'm passionate about this and I see value, if others don't see the value in this, then there's not going to be much long-term sustainability for what we're trying to create and what we're trying to offer people. And so long-term sustainability means providers seeing value because data collection from them is the heart and the soul of this. And then it's also getting sponsors to see value in this because why would people want to spend money and fund things for families if they didn't think it was a good cause, right? And so it's not just, I think this is good. It's this is valuable and I need to invest time and money for people to change their lives. Because essentially that is what we're doing. We're trying to help people have this conversion so that they can experience a whole different life that they don't know is actually out there for them. And I think when we bring cultural context into this, that's another layer of value because our cultural pillars are so strong, right, on respect and showing up for each other and just being able to be there for one another and understand each other, right? Mm-hmm. But when we're not accepting the way that like people think differently and behave differently, we're kind of putting that barrier in between us and them. And so when they go through this healing journey, it's almost as if they become more connected to our cultural pillars than they were before.
You know what? I think I'm just going to share this experience with you really quick because when I think it was 25 years ago when I started in the medical field, I didn't have a degree with me. So like, but I was willing to learn because I didn't understand what the CDC was or the SOPs that we had to follow in the field. And so like a lot of the times when people would tell me, you know, their diseases or what they would have, you know, well, this is what I have. And I'm like, okay, I have to look it up in the CDC to make sure that it's something that we could, if they're eligible to donate, you know, donate blood. So in the health history, when I don't have anyone there, I'm like busy studying the whole entire book. Like I could literally tell you the whole entire book, at that time. And then even like the medication book, like I would go and study the whole entire book. Like I knew the medications and what was acceptable and things like that. People would just always ask me, how is it that you know all these things? I'm like, because I study it during my downtime. Like, but if there's no one here to do health for me to, interview, then I just sit there and read the whole thing. Even with the HR guidelines and everything, I knew everything. People would come to me like and ask me all these questions, and they're like, how is it that you know all these things? And it's because I spend my time reading the books because I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing, right? And so as I was making my way up, the corporate ladder, the whole time they kept saying, you need a nursing degree, you need a nursing degree. It's the reasons why you can't have this position. But the whole time I had knowledge, like I knew everything from the ground on up, and like when I was running the blood bank, like people would always come and ask me, and I'm like thinking to myself, well, then go ask the nurse that's over there, she knows all the answers. And they're like, well, she kind of doesn't know what's going on. So because she just got hired on. And so I understand that you've been here for like over 10 years and you know what's going on. Not that I'm saying that the nurse doesn't know, anything. I'm just saying because of my tenure and I'd been there for so long, people would come and, consult with me and ask me these questions about such and such and what do we do? Where does it go? How's the blood process? And all these things. But I worked my way around to where I could move myself up in corporate by building that trust with those people from the higher up, and with having that knowledge. And knowledge is so powerful. It's free. Research is free. Anyone can do that. And so like when people express and say things like, well, it's because you don't have a degree. It's not because you didn't want to go to school or anything. It's just that maybe that's not your forte, but it doesn't mean that you're dumb or anything like that. It just means school wasn't the way that you wanted to be. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that are out there that have like an 8th grade education, and they've gotten through because they've used the professionals. They thought things through and be like, well, since I'm not the smart one or I'm not the person that's capable of doing it, I'm going to hire the professionals that could do the job, And so either way, whether or not you have a powerful mind, and knowledge is power, and it takes step by step, regardless of the naysayers or people that are trying to discredit you. Don't let that get you down, because this work is so important for people to know. So that way we can help our families to get that understanding out there, especially learn more about unhealed trauma or autism or neurodivergent, because those are things that we don't talk about enough in the household. And it's just brushed off, like how Leaso said, just brushed under the rug kind of thing. And so my next question to you is, with all that's going on in your life, with your situation right now, what does it look like in the future for United Minds?
The future that I am envisioning for United Minds, we've kind of talked a little bit about it. It's just expanding on the healing that our people need and that they are experiencing and that they can further experience. The future also looks like having access to just greater spiritual attunement, being connected to our roots, our cultural pillars of showing up for each other, meaningful connection with ourselves and our experiences around us. I think it looks like systems making decisions based on accurate data, where providers and educators and policymakers actually understand the community that they're serving. And I think that if institutions actually listen, we can actually close the gap between lived experiences and clinical understanding. And then we can use real data to influence education systems, healthcare models, different policies, and government systems, things like that. I think that all of this would lead to earlier support, diagnoses for our people, campaigns and education initiatives. And I just have a really big vision for United Minds for the future. This is something that can and should expand globally to all of our Pacifica people.
Is there a time frame for your data? Is there like an expiration date, or are you just...
No, because we're just barely scratching the surface with this. This is an ongoing thing that's going to take years, especially as we try to continue to find more affiliates who are willing to listen and are willing to partner up with us. Right now, I'm only working with two. Well, I shouldn't say only because they're amazing, but there are two nonprofit organizations that we're very closely working together on many initiatives. So the first one is called NIMA. They are the National Asian American Pacific Islander Mental Health Association, and they just do so much work on providing just wholesome training that is culturally safe and acknowledges our experiences as Pacific Islanders. They also offer all different types of trainings and services, and they help a lot in government systems. So our last initiative that I worked on with them is that we signed up for a petition for locally here in Utah, and they're doing this work across the U.S., but United Minds teamed up with them and signed a petition here in Utah to recognize May 11th as the National Mental Health Day for Pacific Islanders and Asian Americans. And so we're excited to hear back from the government officials. We're hoping that they approve this policy. And then the other nonprofit organization that we're working with, it is a Tongan-owned nonprofit organization in California called Project Paxton. And the founder of this organization, her son was also diagnosed with autism, and she's doing a ton of work trying to build up her nonprofit, and she's working with her local government systems too. She just recently petitioned for a policy to have people with autism registered and built into systems for first responders so that they're able to see that that person is autistic. So something that people may not know is that first responders don't have training on people with autism.
Well, I never knew that.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of really difficult cases that happen where like cops will shoot people that are autistic, they'll beat them up, they'll take them to jail. And it's because they didn't know that they were autistic. And so this policy that she's working on is getting the system base for first responders to have people sign up and register their people that are on the spectrum. And then it's also having neighborhoods put up signs so that people know, hey, there's an autistic person that lives in this, things like that. And so she has a walk that she's hosting. So if you're in the area of California, look out for Project Paxton's walk. It's just a way for her to kind of spread awareness on this policy that she's working on with the local government out there in Los Angeles. The walk is free, and there's a lot of sponsors and donors that are going to be there participating. And another thing about her organization is that she's really just working to create a space for families who have people that are neurodivergent to feel safe. So these are Pacifica families. She also focuses on the Pacifica community. And so if you're in California looking for a safe space for people to connect with, network with, hang out with, yeah, you can follow her. Her organization is Project Paxton. But I'm working with her on that and us trying to set up plans and next steps to get funding.
Do you feel like, looking back at your life, everything that has transpired prepared you for what you have created in United Minds and prepared you for it, especially serving your mission? I know that also helped you in going through the path and journey that you're on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that my entire life has like set me up for this. I think for as long as I could remember. So like I did briefly mention that my dad was kind of in and out of our lives because he had issues that he was dealing with. And at the time, right, so like because my family, the way that they perceived neurodivergency, I just grew up hearing them say all the time, like he's fakasesele and he has mental issues, just labeling him as like he's crazy. And so I grew up believing that. And it wasn't until I started learning more about this mental health stuff that I realized my dad was neurodivergent, and my family just didn't know how to support him. Sorry, I feel it's a little bit conflicting. I have a very strange relationship with my dad because of just, the dysfunctional chaos that I grew up in, but it was also just trying to hold space and understanding that he was such a misunderstood person. And he didn't really have the support systems or the family members to really acknowledge what he was facing and what he was going through. And I think because of that, it increased his mental illness that he was dealing with. So I think that experience is a huge foundational block for all of this, along with my daughter. And then I think other tiers and experiences too, like so you mentioning my mission, it was Tongan speaking. So I studied a lot about the language. Not only that, I grew up with the language around, right? On top of that too, when I was in school, I was always really curious and fascinated about our culture and our traditions, and I wanted to just learn as much as I could. So I took classes on the language as well. Like, I'm very proficient in the dynamics of the structure and how it's built, and the culture that influences the way that we speak and the words that we use and put together, right? So I understand a lot of those things. And I think this goes back to the pushback as well. Like, when I get comments, right, I just think that I'm in a spot where I don't need to prove myself, and I don't need to defend myself, but I do know much of the education that backs up everything when it comes to culture, when it comes to psychology, when it comes to behaviors. I think that I've been very well prepared. And I think another layer of that too, like, Crystal, when you were explaining experiences that you had in the work fields where you didn't have a degree, but you were very proficient in a lot of the things that you were doing. And I resonate with that, because I was saying I like the farmer's analogy because of that. I feel like I don't have a degree, but I'm so connected to this. It just feels so deeply rooted inside of me. And even though I don't have a degree, I do know all the things that I need to know to make this work and to make this successful, and to also be able to connect with our people and provide a space for them where they can also be understood. And it reminded me of my experience in college, because this is an experience that many of our people have, especially if they grow up in a diaspora, right? So I was always taught and told that a lot of sacrifices were made for me in order for my mom and my grandparents to come here to America and provide a better life for me and my siblings. And so my responsibility and my duty is to appreciate that sacrifice and to make something of myself, right? But the challenge was some of the cultural expectations as I'm trying to develop myself and provide this life. And that I carried that into college. So I'm trying to be educated. I'm trying to graduate. I'm trying to get a degree, but I have family responsibilities at home. I have to help my mom with bills. I have to help my siblings with things that they need, right? And I feel so disconnected from them, or I feel shunned when all I'm doing is focusing on college, and my family keeps trying to pull me back home. And it feels selfish of me to tell them no, like, I'm in a season right now where I need to focus on this, and then I can come back and help you guys. That felt so selfish to me, and I had such a difficult time trying to navigate through that. And so eventually I ended up leaving college and going back to my family and carrying on my life, trying to help them and support them. And the reason why I say that, I do think that this is an experience that many of us have. I want to share an experience from a friend that I have, where when she was in college, she was the same way. She couldn't live on campus because she had to stay home and take care of her family while she was going through school. And during one of her weeks, I think it was her final week, I can't remember what she asked, but she had asked the professor if she could either take the exam early or if she could take it remotely. It was something like that. And he had asked her, why should I give you an exception? Why should I accommodate to you? And she was trying to explain to him, like, I have family responsibilities and it's really getting in the way, but I'm not trying to give up on school. Like, I'm trying to find a way to make this work because I need to do this. And he just completely shut her down, and he didn't help her. And I think that is an example of systems not recognizing us and recognizing our cultural pillars and the things that affect us, right? But then it's also us trying to, like, navigate through some of these things where, like, culture does kind of get in the way sometimes of us understanding or trying to fulfill ourselves and, like, our own personal needs. And so I think that experience as well, even though it's unfortunate that I didn't graduate with a degree, I do think that the experience has built me, and experiences like that has prepared me for this, because I'm able to really, really understand and empathize with other people of, like, hey, like, I know exactly what you're going through, and I think that this is a common experience for a lot of us, and you're not alone, right? Like, there has to be ways that we could help support each other so that this doesn't continue on to be such a difficult thing.
Yeah, and I really think that families need to understand the importance of having you to live out your life when you reach a certain age, because I feel like we're so attached to our family unit. It's so hard for us to like go off, like right now with me and my husband, this is what we talk about all the time. I'm like, I'm so grateful that I'm married to a someone because he understands the culture, because he knows I will never leave my mom. Never. I wouldn't ever put her in a home or anything like that. That's just my way of, how I've been taught. My mom took care of her mom, and her sisters took care of, their mom, and so forth and so forth. And so that's why I'm so grateful. I always tell him how grateful I am that, I have her with me, because he already knows that if it came to him and her, I would choose my mom.
Yeah, me too.
Or my dad, because over my husband, because, she's that important to me. And I want to make sure that she lives her best life, and I don't want her to ever worry about not having the person there for her, And so I'm just so grateful to have somebody that understands the culture, like how you said with the professor that didn't even understand about your friend's situation. It's unfortunate. And so, but she tried. She tried all sorts of ways to see what she could do to, at least take her finals. But these are things that I think will bless us in the long run because of our obedience, our exact obedience, not just to our Heavenly Father, but to our family, and helping them out with all the things that we need to do. And then with those blessings, they'll come tenfold to you. Because you stepped in and did the things for the family. But also, you also got to take into effect about yourself, because you're important. If they're not there, who else is going to take care of you and your daughter? You're the only person that could take care of you mentally, physically, spiritually. It's you. No one else can force you the way that you are. And I had to take myself and self-care, and it was so hard for me to do those things because we're so in this multi-family unit to where we're so close like this. So when you're doing something for yourself, you feel so guilty because you're like, am I doing something? I feel guilty because
selfish,
yeah, you feel selfish, right? And I'm like, oh, I feel guilty for doing the things. But then after a while, like when you hear things, you need to do these things. You need to do these things. You need to reset. Number one. Number two, do something that you love outside of your family. And that was even hard for me because, I'm so used to doing, things with my parents and, my sibling. And so with me doing things by myself, when I, started to, think independently, I was like, yay, I'm independent. But, but I hope with that experience that I'm sharing with you, that's something that you can take. I know you love your family and your culture, and, just to do a little bit for yourself, for your own, so you can feel good about yourself, and if school is something that you want to do in the long run, in the future, school is always going to be there no matter what. Education will always be there, and you'll always have that opportunity to go back. Take it from me, because I'm a professional student. Been in school for so long, and so I'm just like, oh, I can't make up my mind of what I want to do. And my parents would always be like, Crystal, what is wrong with you? You want to do this? I'm like, I know, they're so cool. I would want to do like almost all of it, but I don't know how. My mom's like, stick to one thing. So, but yeah, and
I appreciate that, Crystal. Thank you. And it's so true. You're so right. And I think too, like with what we were talking about, like with information being so accessible to us in this time and age, it's like, it's really not difficult. Like college isn't the only way to like learn about stuff, research stuff, so there's always ways to advance and to learn more. It's the willingness, right? Like what you were saying, it's having that heart and that willingness like you did, to be open to learning.
And I learned from from that field that you didn't necessarily have to have a degree, to know all these things. Because I'm thinking, oh, I need to ask the physician on call to see if this is okay, or all these. I mean, if I had like outside questions about things, then of course you would call and find out if that is okay. But other than that, it's right there in the book, and people will be like, how do you know all these things? I'm like, I'm just reading the book. I'm just reading everything. It says right there, and they're like, okay. Yeah, so.
But it goes back to like all the education you can get and absorbing all that knowledge from the book has nothing compared to hands-on. Again, going back to hands-on. I also admire those who lead a company, who lead an organization, but they hire those with degrees under them while they oversee all of those people. Because even with textbook, when I was learning at school, it was nothing compared to the real life in all these different businesses and industries that I worked for, because they all ran things differently. And so we just held a degree, but it was actually organized and functioned different, that we had to learn their way. As you go through your journey and push through with United Minds, do know that there are ways to go around it. Heavenly Father created you in a way to where we need your mind to be the way you are, and that's how you were able to take yourself out of the box, like I mentioned earlier. It was meant to be that way so that you're not clouded with the textbook. You're able to think outside and to create this wheel that nobody was able to create, and you're able to see things that no one is able to see.
I had a lot of trauma going on in my life too, a lot. And I didn't understand why I had so much anger issues. I used to be angry all the time. Like, I come home and I'm angry. I'm angry at this, I'm angry at that, I'm angry at whatever. But I never understood why I was angry. And when I had my first relationship with my ex-husband, I was so mean to him. Like, I was just like not having it. Like, it had to be my way. I didn't understand how relationships were supposed to be. And it had to do with the trauma that I dealt with growing up, you know? And I just couldn't understand what was wrong with me, because I kept telling my mom, what's wrong with me? Is there something wrong with me? Why am I always so angry? Like, I don't understand why I'm angry all the time. And she's like, I don't know, maybe you need to go see a doctor or talk to somebody. And I'm like, I have no idea what's going on with me. But when I saw a therapist, boom, everything came out, and it felt like a huge, you know, all this burden that was on me lifted out. And like, because I was so uncomfortable talking about molestation and, you know, things that happened to me in the past, it was so uncomfortable for me to talk about. And so I let my anger, you know, you're protecting yourself, and there's that shield. And so one of the things that I loved about what this therapist said, he says, you know, it's easier said than done, but he was like a LDS therapist, and he said, but you need to forgive your past and move forward. And to me, he's like, because you're holding on to all that, and that's what's causing you not to move forward, you know. And whatever it is that you're going through in this relationship, you're bringing all your trauma from the past into the next relationship. And I was like, oh, it makes so much more sense, you know. He was like, yeah, forgive, forget, move forward, you know. He's like, it's not saying that you should forget what happened to you. It's just saying it's going to help you push forward now that you're able to say all these things to help heal yourself. And I was like, I'd never been able to express myself in that way to anybody ever. And when I talk to my husband, because, you know, he has some emotional issues, and I'm like, you need to go see a therapist. You know, I'm like, you don't need to go see a therapist. And he's like, I don't need a therapist. I'm like, yeah, you do, because you have some unhealed trauma, and that's what's going to help you. But, you know, but I just thought I'd share that. But thank you, sis. These are things that needs to be talked about, because no one ever can say these things because they're so afraid. Yeah. They're super afraid to say these things and to do the hard things, Mele. So I'm so glad that you're doing this. Thank you so much. This is going to help. I mean, it's already helping people, but imagine more people being helped, because they're all left in the dark. And so this is going to help bring people out into the light, so that way they could, you know, heal from inside out.
I want to thank you guys too, just being so vulnerable and just like having an open and safe space for us to just like talk with each other. Like, I've felt so comfortable during this whole podcast, and I just like, I can't express how much gratitude I have that you guys wanted to talk to me and like have me come on and join and like share these things. And I especially appreciate also like your passion and your vision, and like with what you were saying about how like what inspires you and the drive that you have, and a lot of it is like spiritual, right? Like you feel connected to that spiritual portion as well, where like you just like wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, I have to do this. And I resonate with that so much because like I have those experiences all the time with this, where like there's nights where I can't sleep and I'm like, why I need to go to sleep, I'm so tired. It's like I got to get on my laptop and I start like organizing some things together, and then finally like my mind is at peace and then I can just like go and sleep. So I'm like, okay, I see, like I really have to do this even if there are moments that like it's hard and like I don't want to, you know. So I agree with you. I feel like us meeting is like divine intervention. And so I appreciate you guys being in tune with that direction so that we could meet, because if you weren't in that space to do it, we wouldn't be able to make this difference together. And I think one thing that is so good about our people, because we love communal care, right? Like we're good at networking. We are so good at networking. We're so good at telling others like, oh, I know this person. They can help you with this, this, and that. And I think sometimes as some of our people kind of rise up on the ladder, they kind of start holding things to themselves, and then they stop wanting to network and they stop wanting to help others. And I think sometimes they might feel like it's a threat to their success and like where they're at, you know? And so I think if we just continue on to provide that networking system that we're so good at, like there's room and space for all of us at the table. There's room and space. Like nobody owns knowledge. Nobody owns any of this stuff, right? Like nobody owns progress. These are things that are given to us and inspired by like God and by like Heavenly Father. And so I think at the end of the day, it's all about being able to be grateful for what we're given and then sharing it, because the more that we give, the more we're able to receive, and everybody can just like benefit from it. So I appreciate you guys so much. And I appreciate all the love that has been here. So thank you guys.
No problem.
It's all awesome.
No, it's
Thank
all
you,
of us.
Leon. Thank
Yes,
you,
all
thank
of
you,
us.
thank you. So many things to say. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, like, I'm like, share.
I'm just here just to,
Well,
listen
she
and
was
learn.
meant to be there. Well, I have one more question before we close, because I know that it's getting late for everybody. If your voice could reach every Polynesian household, what would you say?
Well, that's a tough one. It's just tough because there's so many things that I want to say. I think that the most important one would just be that even though there's times like you might feel like you're alone or you might feel like you're misunderstood, there's always people out there that can relate and can support you. And so even if you don't see an immediate village physically around you, they're out there. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of work to kind of be uncomfortable and reach outside the box and try to find those connections so that you can get that support. I think it's just understanding, like, people say all the time, like, you're not alone, but then people experience, like, if I'm not alone, like, where is everybody?
Yeah.
And so I just do think that you're not alone. And I think that there's love and there's support for you out there. Just don't give up. And I think that there's many of us who want to connect and help give that to each other.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I have nothing else to say other than, Crystal, do you have anything before I close it up?
Nope. Thank you so much. Again, appreciate what you shared here on this podcast, and the best of everything. I know everything's gonna work out in ways that you've not imagined, because it will reach out to many, especially these times.
With that said, as always, ending it with glory to God for all of his glory and blessing on this podcast, and on all of our guests and hosts who has helped me on the podcast. So thank you, and you guys have a good night, and we'll stay in touch.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Boom, 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 earth shake, silent fever, wave riders, lava rivers, no